This is the set review for the next TCG Pokemon set coming out in, I believe it's the end of February, called Team Up. And yeah, what we're going to do is go through over in these next sort of couple of streams and just have a look at the salient cards as well as a couple of other bits that I find interesting, and yeah, talk a load of rubbish about them, and yeah, talk about their relevance to the metagame. Talk about any sort of memes you could build, anything serious you could build, different ways you can play them, cards that they synergize well with, and yeah, just have some fun. So as soon as Lee gets back, we shall get going. But yeah, it's obviously the main point of the set is the tag team GXs. The sort of big new mechanic to the game. First time in a long time we feature first time ever we feature 3 prize card attackers. So very exciting, very, very important. And that's the first thing we're going to be tackling. So, are you all ready to go, Lou?
Yes, I am here.
Super. Right, without any further ado, let's move on. So, the first thing I just want to clear up is the relevance of the set. So, in Japan, there were a few separate sets released: Tag Bolt, Dark Order, and GX Ultra Shiny. And these 3 sets, sort of in tandem, create our Team Up set. GX Ultra Shiny obviously features a lot of the sort of very, very sort of good cards that we've seen throughout the last 18 months or so. So, everything from Buzzwole GX to Ultra Necrozma. Absolutely, yeah, that's right.
I don't think there's anything new in it at all.
There's about 20 new cards. Some of them are type reprints, which we'll get to, but mainly it's just reprints, but there's a few bits and bobs. So what's new? We've got 6 Tag Team GX Pokemon, 6 regular GX Pokemon, 4 Prism Star cards, and 181 plus cards in total. The number isn't actually confirmed because there's all sorts of promos and things that get released in Japan, and we're never sure whether or not we're going to get them until Pokemon release a full list. One of those is Marowak GX, or Lowland Marowak GX. I'm not sure if you have you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I think.
It's fairly trash, I think.
Yeah. I wasn't a fan, but yeah. No, we've got it later on. Anyway, here we go. So, Tag Team GX Pokemon. This is a new game mechanic, high HP numbers, 3 prize cards taken for a Tag Team GX knockout. So obviously that decreases your maximum number of knockouts in a game to 2 rather than 3, which is, a bit of a yikes if weakness is a big problem for you.
Yes.
So we've got the possible return to big basics again. That's sort of been the fear on everyone's minds, and I need not remind people of X-Ball Mewtwo. And I've popped Buzzwole GX on there as well. He's never really been, he wasn't in a big basics metagame, but I don't like him. He scares me. Maybe a more healthy balance. Let's hope, right? Let's hope. So moving on, my main issue with this new format. We are all familiar, or those of us playing sort of, who have played against Stall decks are all familiar with our friends Regigigas, Shuckle GX, and Hooper. It's very frustrating cards to play against if you are sort of anything to do with a sort of an intermediate deck, so something that's not too aggressive like Malamar or Blacephalon, which can sort of run over these type of decks with severe aggression. And obviously Steelix Wailord, another one that sort of ran around for a bit, as well as Sylveon, of course. Max Potion and Acerola, huge cards for these variants, and obviously will be for tag teams as well, just because of those massive HP numbers. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That is the problem that I can see coming, is that every single Stall variant will just become some kind of tag team. Obviously, this is unrealistic, but yeah, it's a problem I can foresee coming. One thing I was very pleased to see in this set was the retrieval block, Mr. Mime. So your opponent's Pokemon with damage counters on them and all cards attached to those Pokemon cannot be returned to your opponent's hand. So this essentially just denies Acerola, which is really nice. It means that if...
It is nice, but I guess with these new HPs, Acerola's going to see a lot more play, but
definitely.
It feels like a big commitment to put something into your deck just to stop your opponent from...
Absolutely, yeah. It is an awkward tech card, and it does very much beg the question. Certainly with decks that require lots of use of their bench, which is pretty much all decks. Is it sort of balanced that every deck must confine a bench space to Mr. Mime? But there we go. At least it's there. And Max Potion has a cost attached to it, which is good to see. So straight away, I think we're gonna having had a look at him. We're gonna move on to Venusaur and Celebi. So there he is. It's a standard artwork. First things to note: high energy costs. So we've got minimum energy attack cost of 3, and then 4. And Evergreen GX is 4, and for your additional GX effect, which is something that all of these tag teams feature. Let's have a look what's going on. I've got absolutely no way of looking at Streamlabs without looking. Yeah, that's right. I tell you, Sam, if you could do everything in the chat, that'd be fantastic. Because unfortunately, we're working on half power here because I'm having to do a screen capture rather than just a window capture because OBS is messing me around. So yeah, thank you very much for whoever that was. Just it'd be excellent if Sam could take care of that. Thank you. So yeah, sorry. Back to where we were. Evergreen GX, the GX attack. All of these tag team GXs rather. They have an effect for their cost, but if you have more energy, a specified extra amount of energy attached, you get an additional effect. Before we move on to that, first of all, so we'll just have a read. The additional effect here is if you've got 1 additional grass energy, so grass, and 2 colourless, you shuffle your entire discard pile back into your deck. Looking at the card, the first thing that I sort of had a look at is Shining Legends Venusaur for the Jungle Totem ability. Allows you to absolutely, yeah, that's right. Just one of these things. It drastically reduces your energy cost down from 4 down to 2.
You need 3 energy for the GX with extra effect, right?
Absolutely, yeah. But Evergreen GX is not something you want to be using at the start of the game, so it gives you time to develop your board. Powerful GX attack, yeah, similar to Lysander's Trump. Oh, it's half of a Lysander's Trump card, essentially. Lysander's Trump card banned.
Turn me up a bit on Discord.
Of course.
Saying I'm quite quiet.
Sure, yeah, I'll have a look. There we go. That should work you out, hopefully. If that doesn't work, let me know. On we go. Now, this is the only thing that I wonder about Evergreen GX is that it's fantastic. You can shuffle all of your max potions and your Eraser Rollers back into your deck. It's wonderful. But the problem is if you get all the jank as well, you get your Elms Lectures, your Nest Balls, which are essentially unplayable once you have a full bench, or you don't want to find your basics anymore because you're already out. You've already got your Venusaurs up. You don't want to be fighting. Well, you don't actually have a 60 HP Bulbasaur, so Elm is actually a bad example. But you know what I mean. Cards like that become irrelevant. So it's a toss up there. It'll be quite interesting to see if you can make a deck that doesn't require too much setup, so it's not sort of too painful. As and when it resets
it's probably
itself.
Any stage 2s I feel are gonna be relying on Meganium these days as well. So
Meganium or Ninetales, yeah. Absolutely. So supporting cards for Venusaur and Celebi. For aggressive stage 2, we looked at Shining Legends Venusaur with a Lowland Ninetales. Meganium is another point, absolutely, with that with a fresh ripening herb. You can pop stage 2 straight into play. You can just set yourself up a Venusaur in one turn. It stops your opponent being able to sort of Grinch down your Bulbasaurs before you can establish them. There's also Sunny De Laurentiis. I sort of pop that down because I like the card and I like buffing damage with Sunny. I think it's very interesting, but whether or not it's going to be relevant,
it has much relevance.
I don't think so. No,
I really don't.
So as I mentioned earlier, with no 60 HP Bulbasaur, Lily Ball engine is going to be preferable to your Elm engine for anything to do with that. But for your stall build, which ideally I think is probably better. You've got the whole stall gang as normal, max potion and Ace Roller and on hand if you're being cheeky. Eighth of Paradise.
Life Forest is going to make it a huge, and I think these tag teams with Life Forest, any grass ones with Life Forest are going to be like quite big in terms of stall.
Definitely, yeah.
To be able to heal 60 a turn is just like ludicrous.
I think the bigger one is, well, not necessarily for stall, but special conditions is, coming back into the meta as well with Blacephalon. It's, It's
and I mean, even with the Celebi and Venusaur, the Pollen Hazard leaves it burned, confused, and poisoned.
Absolutely, yeah, that's right. I think overall quite a powerful card, really. Celebi and Venusaur. Pollen Hazard, yes, it's fairly nice stall. It's essentially 70 because burn gives you an automatic 20. Confusion is very awkward. In fact, it's 80 because of poison. And yeah, it's it's very, very beefy. There's obviously the big red symbol is going to be your big issue in terms of Lucephalon GX. But obviously, if you are running grass types, there is that option to run Sceptile. That is always something you can consider, especially if you were to go down the route of a Meganium supporting your Venusaur line. Will there be space for everything that we've mentioned? Probably not in reality, but it's those are the kind of ideas that I think you'll want to be chucking around whilst you sort of deck craft those kind of things.
Yeah.
I don't think there was anything else I wanted to add really about that card. I think for me it's quite a sort of a simple card really. It's big, it's fat. You stick it in the active and you attach for turn and you say pass. Then if you're
I think the it doesn't really have any big good effects, secondary effects to the attacks.
Absolutely.
So to me it feels like just something with a lot of HP that's going to swing for an amount.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, 150, is it even really worth it?
This is it. Anyway, on we go to something, the is it worth it question. Very much relevant here. Magikarp and Wailord. So there we go. Super Splash, 5 water energy for 180 damage. Big one shot on majority of things with Choice Band. And for your GX attack, 1 water energy. Towering Splash GX for 10 damage. But if you have an additional 7 water energy attached to this Pokemon, it does 100 damage to each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So you can look to sweep a bench really with that kind of thing, or at least put your opponent in a horrible position. So this, I think, is probably the optimal target for a stall variant. You don't have that weakness to fire. You've got the huge 350 HP, and you've got that synergy with Muscle Pads or Brawny Pads or whatever the translation turns out to be, which Venusaur and Celebi does too. I didn't mention.
What does that one do? I don't actually know what that one does.
Sure. Okay. So Brawny, or Muscle Pads. It's if this as a tool card, if it's attached to a Pokemon with a retreat cost of exactly 4. The Pokemon receives 50 HP, an additional 50 HP.
Ooh.
So
Sure.
So it basically turns your Magikarp or Magikarp Wailord to 350 HP basic, which you can stick in the active with a weakness to grass, which is not sort of too relevant outside of Night March. So that's scary enough, I think. One thing I love this deck, Quagsire and Ganondorf. I was dubious of at first. Played around with it for a long time. I really enjoy the deck. And Towering Splash GX, if you manage to retain all of your energy and sort of really frustrate your opponent into allowing you to keep energy cards on the board, you could get off a Towering Splash GX. With 8 water energy on the board, you can sit that in the active and say, here you go. Have 10 damage to your active, 100 spread onto your bench, and also here's a 300 HP basic that can do 180 next turn.
It feels like a very good Quagga finisher.
Absolutely, yeah. You finish games with it.
Once you've got all your energy on the board with Quagsire, move Magikarp into active and just wash out like 8 energy onto it.
Absolutely, yeah. I think you stick it down when your opponent has 2 prize cards to take and say, do you have 2 Guzma to essentially avoid having to tank this thing down? Because I think it's extremely awkward. But so it's an interesting card in there is that Quagsire and Ganondorf pairing that we talked about. We'll just go back for a moment. Is there anything else you noticed or wanted to say about this? Because there wasn't really too much I could think about this. Again, it's started out with the 2 least exciting ones, really very, very simple, just fat tag teams.
Its GX attack is obviously interesting. Other than that, that's about all it's got going for it. On top of that, it's just again Acerola Max Potion. 350 hit points, and it's what's the most you're swinging for realistically? Maybe you can get 200 and something, and then just Acerola, and it's gone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think if your opponent turns over Nitu or Hoppip, you're looking at the concede button. But apart from that, it's a pretty formidable card.
Even that, how many are you going to have to get into Lost Zone for a knockout on this?
8.
What? 80?
No, 8 because of weakness, because of jump bluffs.
Oh, sure,
typing.
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 20, isn't it?
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, 8's not too bad, no.
Quagsire and Ganadel, you just don't bench it. I don't think this will see play outside of that. I honestly don't think it's that good.
No.
And if it does,
I don't think it'll be seen in every Quag and Naga deck either. I think it'll be techs here and there.
Absolutely, yeah, without a doubt. Right, so onto something much more playable, a lot better. Pikachu and Zekrom, very cool card. This one, I think it was the first tag team announced. Very, very exciting. Full Blitz, 3 energies for 150 damage. Search your deck for 3 lightning energies and attach them to one of your Pokemon. So obviously you've got the option to do auto acceleration, so you can have 6 energies on this Pikachu Zekrom for Tag Bolt GX. If this Pokemon has at least 3 extra lightning energy attached to it, this attack does a 170 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So, yeah, as I say, good damage acceleration from that first attack. So your targets potentially for that could be Zeraora or GX. It has its own acceleration, but obviously it is a GX move. It doesn't output any damage. And with that Tag Bolt GX attack, 200 damage to your active. You've got Electro Powers, Choice Bands to maybe buff out that damage, and 170 damage to the bench. That's a Tapu Lele. Or Dedenne GX, or any of those cards that are coming out soon. Support type GX is very, very weak to Pikachu and Zekrom here. You can take 4 prizes in a turn with not too much difficulty really, which is quite scary.
Definitely, yeah.
I think this is definitely a card to be aware of. The viability of the GX move is a maybe with a new Electro card as well. So, Energy Shaker, once during your turn you play this card from your hand to evolve a Pokemon, you may move any number of lightning energy attached to your Pokemon to any of your others in any way you like. So, this is something I thought about for quite a long time with Naganadel. I love this card. I will mention it a lot today, Naganadel, with that charging up ability. So, turn 2, if you can charge up a couple of times, bash down that Electrode and shift all the energy cards onto Pikachu and Zekrom, you can full blitz into a Tag Bolt and really start to cause your opponent some trouble. Because once again, it's really haven't even mentioned the HP, 240 for a basic. That's huge. It's huge. I mean, the biggest we've seen so far is 210 on Guzzlord, so that's massive. But and there's Thunder Mountain and Electro Power as well. So I think your sort of ideal start is you attach for turn, you do your setup, you pass, and then next turn you put down Thunder Mountain, and then you attach again, and you say full blitz. You put 3 energies on the Pikachu and Zekrom, and your opponent's sat there thinking, "Oh no."
I feel like Electric has a lot of support since Lost Thunder.
Definitely, yeah.
And with this Pikachu and Zekrom, it could quite easily be like at least tier 2, if not top tier deck.
I think this is probably a tier 1 card. Honestly, I think this is very, very strong. You can obviously you can run Zeraora as well for that Thunderclap zone for free retreat, as long as you've got lightning energy attached, which is very nice for Guzma pivots, anything like that. Just sort of general moving around. It means if you sort of start something that you don't want to in the active, you can just pop an energy on it, shift it back onto your bench. Very nice. But it does bring in the question of Boswell GX again. He's always there, and he likes these yellow cards.
He loves these yellow cards.
He does love these yellow cards, yeah, and he likes the white Snorlax and Eevee that's coming later as well. So yeah,
oh yeah, that's true.
always something to consider. Boswell GX. Obviously, Boswell with Lycanroc and Ninetales still very much a deck at the moment, and if Pikachu and Zekrom starts to stomp across the board, we can sort of start to consider Boswell maybe being a very good option again, just because of its good matchups. One moment. Got very excited dogs. Right, Gengar and Mimikyu. This is the next one. I think this is probably my favourite card of the tag teams that have been released, just because it has its own mechanic, really. So its main attack, Poltergeist, 50 damage, times the number of trainer cards in your opponent's hand. Obviously, so after your opponent reveals, so item supporters and stadium cards. This is an incredibly strong attack. We've seen it it's been printed on many cards. I think it's printed on the Guardians Rising Trevenant, apart from the attack is 30 times. But obviously, with that, with 50 times multiplier, you're looking at 3 or 4 trainers rather than sort of 7 or 8 to get a knockout, which is, becomes a lot more viable. And also in synergy with Horror House GX. Well, let's not talk about Noivern yet, but Horror House GX, your opponent can't play any cards from their hand during their next turn. for
What?
one energy. For one energy, and if you have an additional psychic energy attached, each player draws cards until they have 7 in their hand. So you pop 2 psychics on it.
Oh gosh.
Horror House, your opponent's stuck there doing nothing because potentially you can do this turn 1, so they can't even set up. And you're going into a Poltergeist with, and they potentially have 7 cards in their hand. Ridiculous. Not to mention it's a buff for your own sort of board state, drawing cards off of an attack. Yeah. So horrendous. Horror House into Poltergeist could be very, very scary. And with
how are you proposing to get 2 energy on it turn 1?
Well,
you do 1, I suppose, GX, but you won't be able to draw the 7 cards.
No, potentially not. Yeah, that's right.
That could make donking a serious threat.
I mean, genuinely, you choose to go second with 4 Gengar and Mimikyu in your deck. You say Horror House, and then you say Poltergeist. Unless your opponent started with sort of realistically 2 or 3 Pokemon.
Yeah.
And the number of times with any sort of meta deck that you start with 1 Pokemon at your starting hand of 7 cards is very, very common. Very, very common. So yeah, very, very scary card, that one. Noivern GX is something that came to mind, obviously because of Distort. So you've got item lock going on there. Very, very sort of... I'm not sure. It's sort of... I think this is a meme. This isn't a good deck. Gengar Mimikyu Noivern is not a good deck, but it can be very funny. You distort for a few turns, your opponent's stuck Cynthiaing maybe every turn, and then when they can't chain supporter cards anymore, they're stuck. They have to put Lele's down, they have to put Marshadows down, fill up their bench, ruin their board state. They're not, out putting too much damage, and then you come in and say Poltergeist, and they could be in a lot of trouble. I think it's honestly better on its own, but yeah, it could be an interesting idea. It also sort of opens the door for Judge and Marshadow. If you can Horror House your opponent, they can't do anything, and then the next turn, you attach an energy and say Judge, you're knocking out their active Pokemon. And your opponent's stuck with 4 cards in their hand. It sounds horrible. The only thing, this card looks like the absolute bee's knees, right? The only scary thing is that weakness to dark, and we all know about Zoroark GX. That hits exactly 120 with Riotous Beating, as long as your bench is full, double to 240, which happens to be the exact health of Gengar and Mimikyu. And I'm sure that's no mistake on the part of TCPI. So
it is a very big check in the favour of not running Gengar and Mimikyu.
Definitely. Yeah, weakness policy is a must-have in that deck. Which is a shame because Choice Band fixes a lot of maths in terms of 210, 230 being relevant numbers rather than 200. But there you go. It is what it is. Malamar engine is another thing that you can consider, or just an EXP share engine, because realistically you only need 2 energy attachments, so EXP share could be preferable. Their field blower's not really very prominent in the format, really. Most decks are running 1 at most, just because stadiums are more effective in terms of getting rid of those pesky Prism Star stadiums that we have in the format at the moment. Life Forest, Heat Factory, and Thunder Mountain to a small effect. So yeah, it's an interesting idea. The other question mark is, your opponent can play, they can play around Poltergeist, definitely to a point. Lots of the times you can sort of break your hand down to 1 or 2 cards in your hand, and maybe that's a draw supporter. And even if the other card's an item card, Poltergeist's only hitting for 100, which it doesn't feel wonderful, because the likelihood is your opponent's hitting for more, and you're not, you're down trading because you're attacking with 3 prizes versus their 2. That is the only thing I would have to say about it. Poltergeist, you've been able to play around it previously, and it's only really, it's only been good previously with Item Lock Trevenant, obviously. Trevenant Break was a deck for a long time.
I don't see this as being relevant in the slightest. It's an interesting card, and I like that it's got this new different thing. Your opponent can't play any cards on their hand, which is wild.
Yeah, I think we've seen that before on a Alolan
really
Golem.
Don't see how much players gonna get at all.
I think this side of the rotation, no. After rotation, once Zoroark is less scary, I think it could sort of start to walk its way into format. And honestly, Zoroark plays so many supporter cards and so many item cards that Poltergeist, the likelihood is Poltergeist is going to be doing a lot of damage. So if you
That's
can,
true. That's true.
if you can make those weakness policies stick, potentially you're going to be in the money. The issue is obviously they only need to take 2 knockouts. And they only need to field blower 2 weakness policies as a result. So
Yeah.
it's can you counter the counter, the counter, the counter, the counter? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see, but very cool card. And yeah, we'll move on. Latias and Latios. I haven't animated this slide, so it's all there. So yeah, we're just going to talk through it. So yeah, powerful, reusable one-hit knockout was the first thing. Obviously, Buster Purge, 240 damage. There's not much that's going to survive that outside of the new tag teams, and even with a choice band.
Yeah.
I think it's exclusively Magikarp and Warlord, apart from Brawny Pads. So yeah, discard 3 energy from this Pokemon. Something very, very similar we've seen before is Necrozma GX with that Prismatic Burst. It's 10 plus 60 more for each you discard, so for a 3 discard, the same as Latias and Latios, you're hitting 190. But for only 1 additional energy discard, you're hitting the 250. Which does make me question whether or not Latias and Latios is actually worth running, because that dual energy typing is horrible. And the Water and the Psychic...
That is...
Yeah... There's there are no deck shells that run Water and Psychic energy at all. Unlike Ray, where there's Grass and Lightning. There's that very much that relevant partnership. Water and Psychic, it's just not there, not at all.
Mm.
So
I mean, essentially, it's the same as UNEC, right?
In a way,
3 Psychics, and UNEC does 250.
It does, yeah.
And how much play does that see these days?
Well, I agree, but there have been, I think it finished 8th in Harrogate and 11th or something. Yeah. There were some quite high placements of it, and it is a deck in its own right at the moment. Anyway, let's talk about the whole card before we slag it off too much.
Yes. That's true. Yeah.
Aero Unit GX. Yeah, the GX attack, quite powerful. 5 basic energy cards from your discard pile to your Pokemon in any way you like, so you can potentially look to power up 2 Latias and Latios with an attachment for turn. And this is a way you can look to get those water energies onto the Pokemon without having to do your manual attachments, and therefore...
also, the other thing is that if you can get your water in your discard, maybe run a 1 or 2 of Aqua Patch.
You can do, yeah, absolutely. The other thing, obviously, if you're looking to use that Aero Unit GX, is Shuckle. You can Shuckle away your water energies, and you can turbo them straight back on. And obviously, Buster Purge doesn't require you to discard all your energy, so you can just discard 3 psychic energy, and you can use a Malamar Shell to sort of start, changing up Latias and Latios. Its single retreat cost is also very, very strong, so you're not going to have the problems like you do with Ultra Necrozma, where you're stuck in the active position, forced to run 3 copies of Switch, 2 Stadiums, and a Tantalizer. It's not going to be too much of a worry. I mean, that's horrible. That's just horrible. Not too much of a worry. Obviously, I've got Turtonator and Zeraora up there in terms of their Nitro Tank and Full Voltage GX, very, very similar to Aero units. I think the big thing with the GX attack, though, is if you've got an additional energy attachment, you've got complete damage protection on this active Latias and Latios. Same as Dawn Wings Necrozma with that Moon's Eclipse GX attack. That's very interesting.
Something that I really like about that, because these acceleration GX attacks, I like them, they're great, but it means you're using a whole turn just to, without doing any damage at all, and it's not always easy to do depending on what you're facing.
Absolutely, you do feel like you're a turn behind most of the time, and you very rarely feel like you've got value out of it. I think Nitro Tank more so, because Ho-Oh is one of those decks where it either takes 3 knockouts or it loses. But certainly Zeraora, in its own right, obviously a turn 1 full voltage is lovely. But outside of that, it does feel a little bit like a budget GX attack. It feels like you could get more out of a big one-hit knockout.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, obviously the typing is another thing to talk about. You can search it out with Mysterious Treasure, which is fairly strong as well. It's obviously it's easy enough to search out these tag teams with Nespal though, so potentially that's not even too relevant. I've got down here healing awkward since it would require manual attachment of water every turn. That is true. Obviously, unless you are well, no, that is true. Whatever the case, but potentially with a Malamar deck shell or maybe one or two aqua patches if you weren't going to run the shuckle and use the GX attack, then that could be, you could sort of get around that. Apart from that, again, it's another sort of one of these big tag team GXs, big one hit attack and sort of a turbo GX attack, a lot of HP. Weakness to Fairy is definitely relevant because of Granbull and Gardevoir. I mean, Granbull is just horrible. You turn over Granbull, you either can't put this Latias and Latios down, or if this is primary Latias and Latios deck, you just lose. I mean, it's just horrendous, horrendous to see that.
It's very bad.
Absolutely, and Gardevoir, I know obviously with Buster Purge you're only going to be left with one energy minimum left on Latias and Latios, but they've only got to have what, 3, 4, or three in a choice band. Be three in a choice band because it's 250. But yeah, it's easy for Gardevoir, super easy. Yeah. And the thing with Gardevoir is it accumulates damage as well, so it's not like it can sort of hit you and you can heal. That'll happen, and then they'll knock you out the next turn and take 3 prize cards. So yeah, no, very awkward. Anyway, Eevee and Snorlax. This is probably the other viable tag team. I think definitely. Very cool artwork. Cheer up, attach an energy card from your hand to one of your Pokemon. That's very low res, that image. Oh well, sorry about that. Attach an energy card from your hand to one of your Pokemon. So it's just straight up acceleration. You can look to accelerate yourself, really start, turning up the heat on your opponent. Look to attach a double colourless the following turn for Dump Truck Press or Megaton Friends GX indeed. So there's that auto acceleration, potential attack during turn 2 requirement to find your double colourless energy. But Dump Truck Press, so strong at taking out things like Zoroark, Gardevoir, anything pretty much, any evolved GX, nothing can survive it apart from a Solgaleo. It's so strong, very powerful.
Yeah.
The only obviously thing that jumps to mind is that you struggle to take out things like Buzzwole, Blacephalon, Zeraora. You're only doing the 120, you're not knocking them out. Megaton Friends is one way that you can get that big one shot, but outside of that, you are probably going to look to struggle. And for that reason, I think, and those big basics are going to become a lot more relevant, with all of these tag teams being introduced to the format. The fighting weakness is also relevant. Buzzwole, as we mentioned earlier, peeping his way onto the screen with Lycanroc in the wings, very dangerous. So weakness policy is probably a must-have as well, just as it was for Gengar and Mimikyu. Yeah. EXP share or Malamar builds makes sense. I'm not going to put all the images up on screen. You all know what Malamar looks like. I think this is potentially more a tech for Gascan. That's how I see this. Starting Cheer Up is lovely, I think, but if you don't find that double colourless, or if you are primarily an Eevee and Snorlax deck, it might be a bit slow and against a lot of the matchups, because I mean, something like, if you come up against, I don't know, you can't sort of say if you come up against a Celebi, Venus or a Celebi deck, but if you do come up against a big basic and your maximum damage output is 120, 150 with a choice band, say, it does feel a bit slow.
It doesn't have a good matchup against Buzzwole. It doesn't have a good matchup against Squids.
No, I think Gascan's probably... I don't know. I think Gascan's too horrible. Well, I don't know. Probably is, to be honest with you. They just stick the Necrozma GX in the front right.
Exactly,
you can't
which
do
is immune to normal. Yeah,
that's right. So yeah, that's... Oh no, we've gone too far. That's potentially something to consider, is that those big basic decks are going to be very awkward for you, and sort of in that vein of thinking, I wonder if it's better off as a tech card, because 4 energies is easy enough for Gascan. You can even do it over 2 turns if you want to, but with 3 Malamars set up, or potentially you can look to run some double colourless energies if you were to enter something like a Malamar Spread Shell, which does run those 3 or 4 copies of DCE. You can power this up in 1 turn. Excuse me. Stick it into the active and go yeet. Take a big knockout and your opponent's staring down an Eevee and Snorlax. 270 HP. It can take a knockout every turn. So yeah, those are the 6 tag team GXs that we've seen come out recently in the Tag Bolt Japanese set. There are also six GX cards that we're now going to move on to that have been featured throughout these 3 sets, or rather the other 2 sets. And the first of which is Ampharos GX from Dark Order. Beautiful artwork on this card. It's the first thing I must say. I'm normally not
That's
sort of
nice.
too much of a thing for artwork, but this is fantastic. I like this card.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I like Ampharos anyway, so
absolutely.
Really nice.
Yeah, most definitely. So the attacks are up there on screen. Power recharge, just 30 damage. Put all electro power cards from your discard pile back into your hand. So a loop there I can see coming definitely. You can play all 4 electro powers, and then you can power recharge for 150 and put all those electro powers back into your hand. Or you can look to maybe get off an impact bolt 150 plus an additional up to 120 with those electro powers for as much as you want, really.
Yeah.
But you do have to discard all lightning energy from that Pokemon. And then Electrical GX. Thank you very much for the follow. Can someone notify me of who that was? Because I will lose my place in the PowerPoint. But yeah, thank you very much. You will be noted afterwards, and we'll feature you in the next stream, or at least we will bring your name up and say thank you very much. So yeah, you won't go unnoticed. I hope you're enjoying what you are seeing. Electrical GX, that big GX attack. Search your deck for 7 Pokemon, reveal them, and put them into your hand. I don't like this. On a stage 2, a GX attack feels horrible because it's just awkward, right? You've got to.
It's too late, though, isn't it?
Probably.
You want the 7 Pokemon to get the Ampharos up.
Probably. I think best case scenario, if you go first, you get this off turn 2, but if you're going second, you're getting this off turn 2 going second. You're not doing any damage. It feels super slow. No. So I think honestly you can just run, and there's better GX moves out there. So I think you just rely on your deck to be consistent enough to find this. Not something I would look to clutch on. Notes I made: power recharge is the only good attack in my opinion. That loop I think is quite powerful. You can do that 150, or you can do your power recharge. And recover those electro powers, and then you look to maybe switch into something else. I don't know. It feels awkward. There is a copy image of electro power on screen. Impact bolt, hard to recharge. I've got, so it's 2 energies. If you've got to discard them both, you've got to go into a power recharge the following turn, which means that the likelihood is you probably don't have your electro powers in hand, which means your output is low.
Yeah.
Another thing I've got down here is. There we go. Yeah, the GX attack is underwhelming and counterable with the likes of Marshadow and Judge. All of those very common in the format, because of Beacon. Yeah. Beacon and Steven's Resolve and cards like that being so popular. Marshadow's found its way into most decks. Well, I say most decks that can feature Marshadow, Lost March, Blacephalon. Potentially not something that you want to find yourself being too weak to. I've put Lycia, Thunder Mountain, and Tapu Koko Prism Star up on screen. Lycia obviously can look to find both of these Prism Stars. Thunder Mountain can reduce the attack cost of Ampharos, so you can get that Impact Bolt off for 1 energy, which feels pretty good. And Tapu Koko Prism Star is energy acceleration to the bench, so you can send it to the Lost Zone. Its ability, Ancestral Dance, I think that's what it's called. You can send it to the Lost Zone, and as you do so, choose 2 of your bench Pokemon and attach a lightning energy to each of them. The other thing
from discard.
Yes, sorry, it is. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Sure.
The other shell that I've got down here was Naganadel with Energy Switch. So, I love Naganadel. It's there again. That powerful charging up ability with Energy Switch could look to maybe power up your Ampharos. Space for all of this? I don't think so. Honestly, I think Naganadel, Energy Switch, the shell is better used with Blacephalon. Lycia for Thunder Mountain and Tapu Koko Prism Star, maybe, I don't know. It feels it could be interesting. I'm not sure. If decks like this look to feature that power recharge loop, it's obviously weak to the Get Lost Girafarig, but that's not played at all really.
I feel Ampharos is a little bit too underwhelming to see much play.
This the GX move is what really, with a better GX move, with a big one-shot GX move.
If it had a really good GX attack, it would be somewhat usable.
I think so.
But because its attacks are average, I'd say.
Definitely.
They're okay. They're not amazing. They're not like meta defining. They're not terrible either,
No.
especially with Electro Power thrown in the mix and
Yeah.
getting it back from the discard, etc.
Mm.
But it needs something to back up. It's a solid card. It's not great. It's solidly, averagely okay.
Yeah.
And it just needed that awesome GX to really boost it up as a good card, and I think it falls short, unfortunately.
I agree. I am.
One for the binder.
Yes, that's right. Oh, definitely. It's beautiful. It's got that going for it. Very pretty card. Anyway, yeah, I think we'll move on. Hooper GX. I love this. This is my favourite of the 6 GXs coming. I think this is very cool.
It's going to live in your prize cards.
It's going to live in my... I used to play Mega Gardevoir EX, and I played 1 copper of Hooper EX to get my Gardevoirs out, and game after game it was prized. Anyway, Hooper GX, we're not going to go back to the pain. Hooper GX. Rogue Ring. Search your deck for 2 cards and put them into your hand. Obviously, this is very, very similar to Sylveon's Magical Ribbon, except that fetches 3 rather than 2 on a stage 1 rather than a basic. Nonetheless, Rogue Ring is very, very powerful. It's very, very good. So, yeah, Dark Strike for 160. It's good. 3 for 160 is good. You've seen it on Buzzwell, Zero Aura, that's a Lapras, those sort of 3 for 160. Big one hits. Feels fine. And then the GX move, Devil Hand GX. So you can choose... So, hold on. Choose 6 of your opponent's Pokemon GX and Pokemon EX and do 30 damage to each of those. But you can choose the same one more than once. So those are our attacks that we're working with. I've got down here little support for Dark Pokemon, no energy acceleration. I stand by this. I think it's really awkward.
I think it's coming, isn't it, though? The Dark support's like coming in Dark Order.
It is, but there's no energy acceleration. Dark Patch, it's Dark Patch was printed in black and white eras a long time ago. Feels like something we would need to make this card a bit more viable. Nonetheless, I've managed to find a way to squeeze him in again. Nanu, choose one of your Pokemon in play, search your deck, discard pile for a basic Dark Pokemon and switch it with that Pokemon, and any effects, cards, attached energies, tools, etc. remain on the new Pokemon and discard the first. So if you can get yourself that Naganadel into play, charge up, that's auto acceleration, and then Nanu into a Hooper GX. That could be a way you could look to sort of really turbo something into the active. You start to main your deck maybe
that's interesting.
with 4 Naganadels. Maybe you try and get those out as much as possible. 4 Treasure, 4 Nest Ball, 4 Ultra Ball. Try and really get those into play, and then look to go into a turn 2 Nanu into your Hooper GX and start saying Dark Strike. Could be something you can look to do. Nanu obviously is one of those things. It requires board setup for you to play. Because very much so. And obviously the other thing is you need to get both energies and Hooper GX into the discard pile. So you can use Shuckle to get those energies into the discard pile, but it's you're using up your bench space, and potentially you're going to want that to put Lele's down to find Nanu, because running 4 Nanu, it's probably not what you want to do, really.
It's I love how different it is. Again, it's going to take a lot of doing to get working.
Most definitely.
And I feel like it's going to be very inconsistent.
I don't know. I think, we've seen with Blacephalon and Naganadel just how efficient that, that 4 Ultra Ball, 4 Treasure Engine can be in, 4 Acro Bike or whatever, or how many bike you choose to play. You can really get going.
But you're not relying on getting Nanu and getting energy. Well, you're not relying on getting Nanu and Hooper GX into discard to be able to get set up.
No, this is true. It's potentially less.
So those two, I feel like they're 2 steps too far.
Probably. Anyhow,
again, it's another beautiful art.
Yeah, it's another very nice card. I think it could see some play. Obviously, there's also Darkrai GX, something I thought about as well, with that restoration ability. You can bring it back onto your bench and accelerate a dark energy to it when you do so, and then with your attach for turn, that's 2. So you can look to maybe use Darkrai with Nanu as well to get your Hoopers into the active, or even just use Dark Cleave. If you are using a sort of a Turbo Dark deck or pseudo Turbo Dark deck, you can look to use Dark Cleave or Dead End or those attacks on Darkrai. if Devil Hand is not suitable for the matchup. So that's another option. Don't know why that's just come up. Anyway, I think we'll move on. If we're are we all happy with everything sort of said and done there?
I don't think there's much else to say about Hooper.
I don't think so. No. Shame. Yeah, perhaps this is a card for expanded. Was my last comment with Dark Patch. Incineroar GX. There goes my voice. Incineroar GX.
I think this is one of the ones I'm quite excited about.
Yeah, I think. Well, I wasn't sure actually when I read that. I sat there and thought about it, and I thought, exactly how good is this? Anyway, well, let everyone have a read. I put the abilities in red for a bit. I'm not really too sure why. There you go. Scar Charge. Once during your turn, you can put 3 damage counters on Incineroar GX. If you do so, search your deck for 3 Dark Energy and attach them to this Pokemon. So, the first thing to note is obviously you don't have to rely on getting those Dark Energies into the discard pile. It doesn't matter. You get the Incineroar up, doesn't matter. You can just take the energy straight from your deck, which is lovely. Attacking-wise, Crush Punch. 130 damage, discard a special energy. Special energy hate is very good, especially with all the Zoroark in the format. That's very, very powerful. 130 damage, Isosaur is underwhelming. You're not really hitting anything for weakness outside of Gengar and Mimikyu.
It is underwhelming. 130. I really like the synergy between the ability and the GX attack. That's what I think is the key.
Potentially, but again, Tornado GX 160 is your sort of minimum, and it feels a bit, okay, maybe you Scar Charge twice and you can do 310, with that 6 damage counters for 300 damage plus the 10 base. But
I'm sort of considering Shrine in play as well. It makes Shrine like bad for your opponent.
Wow, I don't know. That feels like a hyper yikes.
They play Shrine. You get 10 on there, and then you do.
I see your opponent playing.
10.
Okay, your opponent. Okay,
yeah, it's almost like a bit more of a defense against Shrine of Punishment. It's going to make your opponent think twice before putting it down.
The only thing to consider is that generally the Shrine of Punishment decks don't have HP that reaches up to 210. Most Shrine decks normally top out at about 160 really is Empoleon Swampert.
That's true. That is true.
So sorry to rain on your parade. I know what you mean though. Potentially you could maybe be spicy and tech in your own Shrine of Punishment. I don't know. Which is what I thought you meant first time round.
Bad idea.
Yeah. GX is a one hit 99% of the time. If you play it correctly, I hope. Anyway. That's aside from the point. Super Boost Energy is another thing, obviously. You can sort of look to just sort of slam that on there. Maybe not have to take the damage. It's probably the least relevant case for Super Boost Energy ever, because you can charge this up, and not only can you charge this up in one turn, it's also... not only can you charge it up, it's in the turn you're attacking it with. So, I don't know.
That's what I love. I love that so much.
I couldn't really think of much more to say about it. That was the thing. It's sort of like cool. It's
got the funny little brown circle there.
It does. Well. Yeah, that's right. Buzzwole and Lycanroc peeping into the corner.
Back to that funny little brown circle.
The damn brown circle. It's here again.
My hate for the brown circle is like never ending.
Jet punch for game. Anyway, yeah. Just something I thought I'd put in there. There is a 60 HP Litten, which I didn't know about, so you can play an Elm Engine. But cool. Right, on to trash. Cabalion GX. This is terrible.
Cabalion.
Metal Symbol. I think it's terrible. As long as this Pokemon is in play, your Pokemon with metal energy can't be affected by special conditions. Sure.
Okay.
Maybe it's a tech. Yeah, that's right. Maybe it's a tech. It's just fine. Dual Saber, metal for 50. If there's a stadium in play, it does 60 more.
Oh, right.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
And then, the GX attack, Iron Law.
Horrendously underwhelming.
Oh, I think it's horrible. Iron Law GX. Your opponent's next turn, none of your opponent's Pokemon can attack. So, basically, you do nothing, and then they do nothing. And then you carry on playing the game as normal. And
carry on doing nothing because you've got a Cobalion inactive.
that's right. You're not a setup deck because you're playing Cobalion GX, which means that if your opponent's a setup deck, your GX attack essentially helps there. It's not true, but I think it's terrible. Metal Symbol is the only merit. Yeah, that's just Steelworker Delmires was the only sort of positive I could find here. So you could swing for 120 instead of it's terrible. Let's move on. Let's move on. Oh yeah. Also, there's synergy with Jasmine. With the we'll move on to it later. It's not even worth mentioning. Oh, okay, well, it didn't animate Diancie, so he's just there. Anyway, on to Lycanroc GX and get this horrible Cobalion off our screen. Lycanroc GX. Dusk form Lycanroc. Yes, that's right. Yeah, Lycanroc the third. Twilight Eye. When you play this card from your hand to evolve a Pokemon during your turn, you may discard an energy from your opponent's active. So it's Kartana GX, essentially, but any energy card. I think this is quite nice.
That's alright.
It's exactly. It's just sort of what I've got on the PowerPoint. Energy discard is solid. It has no downside, right? It's fine. It's just fun.
Yeah.
The GX attack has potency in your late game. Obviously, if you've sort of taken a few knockouts, done some damage, your opponent's done some healing, done some retreating, the energy cards are mounting up. You look to do maybe big one-hit knockout. Apart from Malamar variants, which maybe accelerate their energy and just play around it.
I like that that's only one energy cost as well.
Absolutely.
That is quite good. It makes a
Late game benched Rockruff very scary.
Most definitely. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. Now, two interesting cards to pop up. Lycanroc GX from Guardians Rising. Obviously, you can play both if you are going to play a Lycanroc-based deck. A Lowland Persian from Lost Thunder, Empty Threat. This attack does 30 damage less times the amount of energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon, but for no energy cost. This
is such a bad card.
Well, let's just have a moment to think. This placed in a Japanese tournament. I honestly cannot remember where, but it was within the top 32, fairly high. I think it was 19th by memory, but I'm not sure if that's correct or not. This genuinely placed, and I don't know how, right? So it played... I think it was...
My story about this card comes from pre-release. Obviously, pre-release is not really how you should define your meta, but I had some GX inactive, and my opponent brought up this Persian, thinking, I can swing for X and for no energy, not really reading the ability of the attack, and then proceeded to swing for nothing because I had 3 energy attached. And it was just like, okay, now I knock out your Persian for game.
That's busted.
Well
That's
You've
busted.
done well,
Empty threat for 0. Truly is an empty threat. Anyway.
It just feels... How?
I don't know. Anyway, the Japanese tournaments are very, very strange places that should only be ventured into if you're feeling very brave. But yeah, there wasn't really too much more I could think about that. I think it's very, very interesting. Obviously, it's another tech essentially for Buzzrock, for Zoroark, anything like that. Accelerock for fighting DCE this time round, rather than fighting Colourless, which was on the Dayform Lycanroc back in Sun and Moon base, which is just horrible. So at least there's that. But yeah, apart from that, it's a good card. I think it will see some play. The ability's nice. The GX attack, as we've said, is good. The main attack is fine, and the synergy with that Alolan Persian, I'm telling... Anyway, let's move on. Right, Alolan Marowak GX. This is horrible. Well, it's less horrible than Cobalion, but it's, so you see,
this is a shame,
Pokemon.
because this is such a cool Pokemon, and I really wanted this to be awesome.
Definitely, yeah. So Cursed Body, if this Pokemon is active and is damaged by an opponent's attack, the attacking Pokemon is confused. That's a good start. It's a good ability. It gets worse as we go down. Heat Bone, 90 damage for Fire DCE. Your opponent's active Pokemon is burned.
That is severely underwhelming.
It's fine. It's like
for 3 energy.
Yeah, it's 3 for 110 and the potential for more. It's fine. It's fine. It needs a big GX attack to sort of make the card good, and then Lost Boomerang. This attack does 50 damage to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. Down a play into resistance, and if those targets are knocked out, they are sent to the lost zone rather than the discard pile.
It's just... Do you know what? I think it probably wouldn't even be that bad if it wasn't stage 1.
Maybe.
But because Lost Boomerang, if you could Lost Boomerang turn 1, that would be not bad at all.
Yeah. Play and expanded with Wally. Oh, hold on. He's banned. Yeah. No. I agree. Honestly, I feel like, especially with all the sort of Lost March running around. What's said Night March there? Lost March running around. You can snipe some hop-ips on the 2s, but yeah, no, I think it's incredibly underwhelming. Honestly, I think the card is pretty rubbish.
Definitely.
Yeah, abilities all good to play around. The main attack is poor. Jex tech seems too weak. More viable fire archetypes available. Need I remind you of our friend? That's all I really have to say. Yeah, that's I don't really have anything more to say on that matter, to be honest. Right.
I've got to say, based on so far, and based on now we've covered all of the GXs, and most of them are not great.
No.
However, I think that's quite a good thing because there are a lot of cards in the set that are going to be good.
Correct.
But they're not GXs.
No, I think that's true.
I think it's very nice to start balancing it between having things that are viable for straight baby decks and things that are viable for GX decks.
Definitely,
It makes the meta so much more interesting if you have both types of deck running around rather than just GX decks. Which, we have started to move towards that more recently. You know, we've had things like Baby Bars, and now we've got Lost March and any number of others that I'm forgetting as well.
Absolutely.
But before, like, Forbidden Light, everything was GX.
Yes.
Even sort of up to probably Celestial Storm, realistically.
Pretty much.
Most things were GX.
I think, until Buzzgarb Shrine, everything was, Buzzgarb Shrine was the sort of the pioneer of the of the non-GX deck with only with, as you say, the introduction of Shrine of Punishment, and that was only very late in the meta, really.
Absolutely. So I'm quite on this stream now and find out what fire lit cards we're going to get that are going to help build those baby decks up.
Yeah, definitely. We'll hope so. I think, as you say, it's going to be sort of interesting to see how the meta shifts between sort of those non-GX decks and those GX decks. Obviously, with these introductions of the tag teams, they are potentially a gift to GX decks, but being so big, are they too big? Are they not viable? Or are they just so big that these non-GX decks now just can't compete? The damage is too much. Obviously, things like Granbull will survive because the 2-shot is there, but Granbull makes its money by being a sort of a clunky 1-shot. You know, it can 1-shot anything with 200 HP so long as it finds a Choice Band and a Shrine of Punishment, which is easy enough for the deck. And obviously, if you've got Shrine in play, you're ticking down Zoroarks, Decidueyes. You're knocking out those GXs for 1 shot. With these tag teams, they're too big. I almost think they're too big. And Granbull does not have room for Mr. Mime, which means Acerola is a threat. It'll be interesting. We shall see. Anyway, on we go. Not back to stupid Alola Marowak. To some type changes. These are identical, so you're welcome to go and look up these cards. This is Alolan Executor from Ultra Prism, the Tropical Shake variant, so 20 damage plus 20 more for each different type of basic energy card in your discard pile, up to a maximum added damage of 100. It's playable with Altaria. Yeah, the current one's playing with Lurantis. So, it's just, you get hit for weakness by Gardevoir and Granbull, whereas the other one gets hit for weakness by Blacephalon, but you can play Sceptile, so that cucks Blacephalon. So I honestly think the grass one is just better in every way. The Alola Ninetales, it's a reprint of that from Burning Shadows with that GX-EX barrier. I don't really see where this would be used where it's not at the moment, and I'm not really sure if it's better or worse. Hello? Hello?
No, it's not.
I can hear you, Lou. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can now.
Okay. I'm not sure how much the stream caught of that. Oh, never mind. Basically, even if it didn't capture, it's not relevant. The Exeggutor's worse than the one we currently have. The Ninetales,
Agreed.
I think it's just the same. I think it's just fine.
Yeah, it doesn't make it much difference, really.
Yeah, the Mimikyu makes a nice option for God of War decks if you want a single prize attacker.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I think these are fun. These are fun. The Alolan Ninetales looks beautiful. Let's end it there.
It does. It looks
Tapu,
majestic.
Coco, Prism Star. This is an exciting card, and this is a beautiful card as well. Ancestor's Dance. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon is on your bench, choose 2 of your bench Pokemon and attach a lightning energy from your discard pile to each of them, then Lost Zone this Pokemon. So it's a single use, basically you play it down, you immediately play it to the Lost Zone. Brilliant. I think it's an excellent card. It also has an attack for 120, which is just fine. Immediate synergy, obvious with Rayquaza GX, Pikachu and Zekrom GX. Very, very strong all round. I think this card is fantastic. It's definitely a one-off for all of these lightning types. There's no downside to running it, really. I think it's fantastic. I think certainly even with stuff like Rayquaza, you can play this at any time during the game. If you lose your Vikavolt and you're left with maybe 2 or 3 energy on the board, you can drop your Coco Prism Star, you can Turbo 2 on, you can attach for turn, you can put another Ray down, use Stormy Winds, you're up to 7 again, as long as you've got 3 on one of them, and then maybe you can bench a Grubbin as well, and then you take a big knockout and your opponent's sat there thinking, oh good lord, well I can take out the Grubbin, but if I do so, there's still 7 energy cards on the board, and if I don't take out the Grubbin, there's another Vikavolt, and all of a sudden they're in trouble again. So I think this is a very, very strong aspect for Rayquaza. I think it's a very, very good card. Obviously, also it's great in setup phase, just to maybe even take knockouts turn 1 if you get a good Guzma. Very, very strong card. Black Market Prism Star. This is very exciting. So whenever either player's Dark Pokemon with Dark Energy attached to it is knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack, the opponent takes 1 less prize card. This is very, very strong. This is very, very strong. Everybody's favourite Dark Pokemon, Zoroark GX with Weavile and Lycanroc is a very, very strong meta-defining deck at the moment. Critically,
this is just going to make it so much better.
I think this is definitely a one-off instead of a devoured field. The other thing is that it doesn't specify basic Dark Energy, which means the big unit energy is so much more valuable. I do wonder if this will be errated.
Yes.
I do wonder if this will be errated to say basic Dark Energy, because honestly it feels so strong. It's maybe specifically just in this deck, but it feels so strong. I mean, Lycanroc GX for 1 prize, mental. Because obviously Zoroark generally are attacking with a DCE, but his friends, his attackers, are not. So very, very interesting. Interesting idea for this card. The other thing obviously is that we're seeing a lot of play with this unit energy for the Fairy Alolan Ninetales. So if you are sort of looking for a neutral stadium and you're running Ninetales and unit energies, that's another option.
That's true.
Zoro
Gardy.
Yeah.
It's surely going to be basic Dark Energy.
I would hope so.
That feels very strong.
Yeah.
And the amount of things you can put it in. Oh no, hang on. Kine's just posted in chat. It's got to be a dark Pokemon as well.
Of course it does. Yeah, sorry, right you are.
With dark energies. That's what kills it.
Getting too excited. I played Zoroark Lycanroc for the last 6 months, so yeah. That's very true. So Lycanroc GX outside of that effect. Weavile and Zoroark are not. So a free Weavile feels nice.
Would have been strong.
Absolutely, yeah, that's right. And obviously the Ninetales Blab is out of the question too.
Well,
either way around. Yeah, thank you very much. Overall, I think this card is fantastic. It's very, very, very exciting. Wonder Labyrinth looks good. Each player's Pokemon, excluding Fairy-type Pokemon, pays colourless more to use its attacks. Usage of Gardevoir and Granbull. But Granbull might just prefer Shrine? I don't know. It's interesting. It's almost like a Mount Lanakila effect for attack cost. or even Sticky Membrane Gumi.
I don't like this. This is going to make those fairy decks a whole lot more annoying to fight. Basically.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got that synergy with Gardevoir as well. Buffs that infinite force damage output by 30.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, but the only thing to remember is just how long do Prism Star Stadiums generally stay on the field. It's normally 1, maybe 2 turns. It's very sort of uncommon.
Well, it depends what deck you're playing, right?
Yeah, but the majority of decks are tacked with at least 2 stadium cards.
I don't think I've got any in Zoro Destiny Tales.
Thank you for the follow. Yeah, Zoro Destiny Tales is something that lacks. Some people opt to play Life Forest or Lysander Labs. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think obviously against Zoro Destiny Tales you're going to be sort of, as you say, this card is very effective. I think that's very true. Yeah. Maybe it will force, if it becomes very popular, maybe it will force an inclusion.
Yeah, force it, yeah. Yeah.
The only thing, obviously, is that there aren't too many straight fairy decks around. There's obviously the Gardevoir Swampert build, which is probably the only one I can realistically think of. Granbull, honestly, I think it just prefers Shrine. I think Shrine is obviously just better because it wants that chip on the GXs.
Yeah.
And I think most Granbull lists only play two Shrine at the moment. Yeah, there's not room for that third and fourth. I believe it's 2. Maybe sure. I think it's either 2 or 3 anyway. It's certainly not 4. So most people don't find the room for that for those stadium cards anymore, just because they, I don't know. It'll be interesting. The effect might be worth the risk. But the only thing is that you don't get immediate value from this card. With Thunder Mountain, Life Forest, Heat Factory, you get immediate value from the card. All 3 of them, you draw 3, your attacks cost less, or you can heal 60, right? Whereas this, you can play it down, and your opponent can go, ha, counter stadium, and all of a sudden you're sat there thinking, drat.
That's true, yeah.
It's still a very good card. Without a doubt, it's still a very good card. Shaman Prism Star. Now, any Ray players out there, you people, this will excite you. Grass, Flower, Storm, 30 times. This attack does 30 damage times the number of basic energy attached to your Pokemon in play. This is very, very strong. This is very, 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 very strong. The other sort of use for this potentially would be counter energy. Well, I don't know, potentially not, because you don't spread basic energy around. So no. I think the only realistic use for this is or certainly in the existing archetype, is in Rayquaza. It's a very, very powerful attacker. It's easy enough to power this up in 1 turn. If you're playing energy switches, outside of that, it's not. But attaching over 2 turns is lovely. Just developing a bench threat that your opponent has to care about. Excellent. Means they're not knocking out your active Rayquaza or your Vikavolt. Anyway, outside of that, very, very strong. There's that synergy with Rayquaza, and obviously I'll just put Coco Prism Star down to remind everyone of the sort of the potency of those 2 cards together, both benefiting Rayquaza hugely.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That I think that almost brings Ray back into the spotlight between those 2.
Probably. The only thing is it's a single-use attacker because of its Prism Star nature. It's not very strong, only 80 HP. But I think stuff like Granbull
doesn't necessarily need to be though. If you just bring it up for a single knockout, huge knockout, and then they get a return, that's fine because you've probably given yourself enough time to get a Ray stacked up with something.
Yeah, you're up trading as well probably if you're hitting those big numbers.
Yeah.
2 prize cards for 1. Very, very exciting card. That's sort of all I really have to say. It's very, very strong. It might replace Delmise was the only other sort of thing I looked to put in there. 130 is a good number, but 30 times lots is big, and that's better. A few tools from GX Ultra Shiny that we're going to receive, and they are literally tool cards. We see a Grass Memory and a Water Memory for Silverly GX, in addition to the Fire Fighting Lightning Psychic. Think that's it? I can't remember. I don't care. Silverly's rubbish.
More rubbish to sit in my my item card selection
That's right. That's
Stacks
right.
of 12 of each type of memory. Good-o.
Perfect. This is exactly what I
Totally
wanted.
useless.
Rubbish.
It's like the fairy charms and everything. We just keep getting more of these absolutely ridiculous tool cards that nobody has a use for in multiple times.
Did you just say Fairy Charm? That's Fairy Charm Ultra Beast, I'll have you know. No, there we go. So Fairy Charm Ultra Beast has limited use for Sylveon GX, I think, because Sylveon loses to Blacephalon, which is, I always thought ironic, but with those energy switch techs, it just loses to Blacephalon. So yeah, it's super awkward for them, and Ultra Beast might just be worth teching in, because obviously Blacephalon does not play Field Blower, and
Yes.
I don't think it ever will, because Sylveon isn't enough to worry about to warrant playing that Field Blower over a consistency card. But yeah, the only thing to be said is obviously with the water memory for Silvally, you can hit Blacephalon for weakness. But yeah,
I
don't know.
How relevant is Silvally at the moment, really?
No, well, that's what. Absolutely. Yeah.
Is a water memory going to make it any more relevant?
Very much so. Yeah. No, I think it's trash. Trash. Yeah, one to fill up the bulk, I think. Anyway. Oh yeah, I put Blacephalon down as a kind of yikes Sylveon. Warning. Cancer inbound. Anyway, here we go. Right, onto some supporter cards. Indigo and Emmett.
I don't know much about any of these, so this is
that's fine.
interesting.
So we have, look at the top card of your deck, then put it back. Choose one. Discard your hand and draw 5 cards from the top, or discard your hand and draw 5 cards from the bottom. First thing that comes to mind is this Professor Sycamore, but little. You get that sort of increased aspect of look at one card. Is it good?
I'll be back in a minute.
Yeah, sure, no worries. I'm just going to carry on, I think. So yeah, you get the sort of the slightly bonus aspect of the sort of, you can look at the top card of your deck, which is, it's fine. It's just fine. And it's not a negative, but we have a discard. Essentially we have a discard 5 draw, discard and draw 5. There it is, supporter card in Sightseer in the current format. The only thing is Sightseer, obviously, it has that added benefit of if you've got key cards in your hand, B-strings, Guzmas that you just want to hold on to, maybe Palpad, Risky Stretcher, you can hold on to those, discard and draw 4. So, is this better? I don't know. I don't think so. Yeah, that's sort of my opinion on it. Honestly, Sightseer is better. That little tech of being able to look at the top card of your deck, it's just fine. It has synergy with my cargo because it is a draw supporter in terms of just drawing cards. So you can, but obviously that ironically takes away from the whole sort of individual point of the card, and as much as the fact that you can look at the top card of your deck. So you can Macargo a card to the top, then play Indigo and Emmett, look at the top card and go, oh look, it's the card I smoothed over for. What a surprise! I don't know. I'm not sure about the support card. In many situations, I just believe Sightseer is better, because very often with Professor Sycamore back before rotation, you were sort of holding on to linchpins in your hand, thinking maybe I don't play the Sycamore this turn because I want to get them down, want to play my evolutions, want to hold on to my B strings. Whereas Sightseer, you can opt to do that, given you do see fewer cards. But that option is there, and Indigo and Emmett doesn't let you see any more cards in Sightseer. So on to these 4 strange sisters, Dana, Evelyn, Nita, and Morgan. Yeah, they each have an effect. Dana, Evelyn, and Nita for a stage 2, 1, and basic Pokemon, respectively. So this card, or Dana, cannot be played unless your opponent's active Pokemon is a stage 2. So immediately, it's only effective in very few matchups. Search your deck for 2 cards, put them into your hand. This is very, very powerful, obviously. It's Steven's Resolve, except on 2 cards, not 3, but your turn doesn't end, which obviously it does do with Steven's Resolve outside of playing the baby Metagross. Yes, off topic. I don't think this card is too wonderful. There's not really too much more to say, honestly. There's relevance to Steven's Resolve there. Evelyn, card can't be played unless your opponent's active Pokemon is a stage 1. You just draw 4 cards. feels underwhelming, honestly. I know Sophocles is, discard 2, draw 4, but, very often Sophocles is played in decks for that discard mechanic, so you can see cards and get things you want into the discard pile. I don't see this card at all, really. Nita. Whoops. This card can be played unless your opponent's active Pokemon is basic. Choose an energy card, attach to your opponent's active Pokemon, and put it on top of your deck. And my immediate thought was, Lumaria, right? It's just better. You discard the energy. You don't give them re-access to it. The only thing, sort of sitting here looking at these cards thinking, these are terrible, these are reprints of, worse reprints of existing cards. Not so, sort of. Morgan exists, which is the 4th from the set. This card can't be played unless you discard Dana, Evelyn, and Nita from your hand. So if you have the other 3, you can discard them, and Morgan is your supporter for turn. You look at the top 12 cards of your deck, attach as many energy cards you find there to your Pokemon in any way you like, then shuffle the remaining cards into your deck. So it's essentially a buffed polka dot search. I keep pressing the other button, which is why I'm getting a sound. Sorry. It's essentially a buffed polka dot search, which is look at the top 8 cards of your deck and attach any number of energy cards you find there to your Pokemon any way you like. Obviously, it's not an attack, so you can then go on and attack for turn. But honestly, sort of, the amount of synergy, or not synergy, the amount of pieces that you need to acquire, you need to acquire 4 of these support cards in your hand in order to play Morgan to get that effect. And even then have it unknown, really, whether or not you're actually going to hit energy cards. It feels rubbish. Most of the decks that realistically play energy cards in bulk that you would hit more than 1 of, or more than 2 or 3 of, in 12 cards, already have inbuilt acceleration. Malamar, Blacephalon, it's all already there. Decks that don't play those cards, Zoroark comes to mind. It would never play this engine, but you know what I mean. Zoroark that plays only those 8 energy cards most of the time, maybe 9. The likelihood is you'll hit 1. It feels very underpowered. It feels awful, honestly. So that was my opinion on that. I don't think it's very good. I'm not going to spend any more time on it. On to some Pokemon from Dark Order Zapdos. This card is very, very good. Excellent card here. Assault Thunder 10+. If this Pokemon became your active Pokemon during this turn, this attack does 70 more. So it's not affected by weakness, obviously. So you can't.
I'm back.
Hello. We've gone through a load of trash supporter cards, which no one cares about. So
okay.
Excellent.
Oh yeah.
Terrible. So here, onto Assault Thunder Zapdos. This card is excellent. Very, very similar to First Impression Galissapod. You do 80 rather than a maximum of 120, obviously. But as a single prize attacker with the support of Electro Power, Electric Charger, that we'll cover later on, that allows you to recover those Electro Power cards. You can hit, those 2-shot numbers, 110, 140. Additionally,
and only one energy as well.
Absolutely,
Excellent.
for the single energy attachment, definitely. And also this new Jirachi card, which allows you to look at the top 5 cards of your deck and find an item card, or find a trainer card there, rather, put it into your hand. We will cover that later. But Zapdos Jirachi was a deck that dominated the most recent Japanese tournament. I believe it made up about 30% of the field. I mean, it was probably more than that, 36 I think it was. It was huge, very, very good deck. Anyway, we will cover the Jirachi later on, and we'll talk a bit more about the deck. Yveltal, it's not brilliant. I sort of featured it because I thought it was interesting. Derail, 30, one Dark Energy, 30 damage. Discard a Special Energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. Special Energy Hate is good, right? And then for 2 Dark Clutch, 60 damage, and it's Retreat Lock. It's interesting. With 3 Retreat, I think this card is potentially a tech for Dark decks. If any of those start to come around, maybe featuring Hooper or Incineroar.
Yeah.
Because you can look to use this as a retreat pivot, but also you can, if you start facing those Zoroark decks, you can just derail, and all of a sudden they're sitting there thinking, I can't attack anymore. That's another very, very interesting card. Similar to that Righteous Edge attack on Drampa, a bit more damage, and obviously you don't have to commit a GX to the field to do so. There's lots of cards coming out with that attack. And here we have arrived already at Jirachi. So with that ability, Wishing Star. If this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, you may use this ability. Once during your turn, you may look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose 1 trainer card you find, then reveal it and put it into your hand. So that is so nice. This is excellent, right? This is really good. Shuffle the other cards back into your deck.
nice.
Yeah, the only negative, obviously, is Jirachi then becomes asleep. So switch mechanics
Which
are...
is not the worst thing in the world, because you don't really want to leave it as your active anyway.
No, really, no. But obviously, you can't perform a manual retreat. But I think with his skateboard, right, which Pokemon can retreat whilst you're already asleep, which I haven't put on here. But I think I think that's it. That's an insanely strong card. It's got a synergy with my Cargo as well. Obviously, if you want to just if you don't play the Oranguru, you can smooth over an item or a trainer card to the top. The other thing to note is that there's a brilliant attack as well. You can search for trainer cards, so stadium cards, supporter cards, or item cards. It doesn't limit you, so the likelihood is the likelihood is you will find something, unless you're very unlucky. You will find something. So this is an excellent deck. With that Jirachi, with that Zapdos, you're not playing too many Pokemon, you're not playing too many energy cards. With Electro Power, exactly that. You can find yourself a supporter, an Electro Power item card, a stadium. This is excellent. This is very, very good. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So very, very good card, this Jirachi. And there we go. There is the Zapdos just popped on there. Right, Honedge. This was on there by popular demand. I'm not sure about this. I think it's definitely worth a mention, though. It's definitely worth a mention. For a double colourless energy tool drop, 30 damage. This attack does 30 damage times the number of Pokemon tools in play, both yours and your opponent's. We've seen this before in Tool Drop Trubbish, except that it did not attack for a DCE. That was Psychic colourless. So it was a lot less viable, obviously, and obviously the attack damage is much lower. Being on an evolving basic, you would expect so. This attack is very, very strong. Synergy with Genesect GX. What's Luke put in the chat?
Would like it to be known that it's not Honedge, it's Doublade.
Fuck! It is Doublade. No, no! It's the first mistake I've made. Oh.
Well, I mean, I hate to point it out to you, but there have been a couple of spelling mistakes in the earlier Pokemon.
Oh no, have there?
I glossed over them because I didn't want to interrupt the stream, but this has been too big of a mistake to continue with.
Right, here we go. We're back again. Synergy with Genesect GX with that double drive allows you to attach 2 tools. Where were the spelling mistakes? You want to go looking for them?
Cabalion's got 1 L.
Oh, is it? No, it doesn't. It looks better with 2 L's.
Yeah, it does.
Stuff that.
And you've put Mimikyu.
Oh, did I? God.
Yeah.
Where?
Those are the only 2 H's.
Where?
On Gengar Mimikyu.
Oh, no.
In the title.
Oh, no. Oh, Mimikyu, that's right, isn't it? Oh, is it Mimikyu? Oh.
Mimikyu.
Nah, that's fine. Right, okay, sorry. Completely derailing the... look, derail. Anyway, here we go. Yes, and as we've now seen... oh, God, I'm getting a phone call. That's not good. Right. You can also have synergy with that Adventure Bag trainer card. You can search your deck for 2 tool cards, put them into your hand, which is, very, very powerful. You can just sort of search these cards up now rather than having to draw into them. We've seen sort of item cards, tool card heavy decks in the form of Rotom before. Little more than a meme, but you don't have to discard them this time, right? And I'm not sure whether you want to play Genesect, because honestly I think Shrine is just more powerful. You don't want to put your own GXs down. You don't want to, give your opponent the chance to knock out your GXs. However, the attack is so strong, even if you've got tools on just your Pokemon, if you've got 1 Genesect in play, best case scenario, say you've got 7 tools in play, you're taking a GX knockout anyway. So does it really matter? Probably not. Anyway, it will be one to play around with. I think it is a very good deck.
But if you've got a tool and everything and a choice band, then you've got knockout in a way without Genesect.
The choice band, absolutely, yeah, that's true. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I'm being bombarded with communications arrays at the moment. Right. There's a few honourable mentions here from Dark Order, which I just wanted to put into the slideshow. I think we're pretty much at the end now, actually, to be fair. Those were Alola Muck has the ability, I believe it's when you evolve it, you can look at the top 6 cards of your opponent's deck and discard as many item cards as you find there. It has synergy with Garbodor, I don't think it's a deck. It's too high rolly. The damage output's too low. I think it's rubbish. I just think it's cool. The Absol, the ability is when it's in play, your opponent pays colorless more to retreat on their basic Pokemon. It's fine. I don't know. It feels rubbish. It feels rubbish to me.
Great.
Yeah, I'm not really too sure. It's really too relevant. Sorry, I'm just going to send this message. Give me 2 minutes. Sorry, everyone. There we go.
Yeah,
right. There we go. No, it's all good. Spiritomb with that Soul Compressor attack. Search your deck for 4 Pokemon and discard them. This is quite cool. I put Lure Ball there. Don't play with Lure Ball. Lure Ball is bad. Well, Timer Ball gets played, I guess. But I think Soul Compressor could definitely see play in the future. It has, I think, probably has potential and expanded. You've got that synergy potentially with Night March.
It works well for Nanu, right?
It does also work well on that with Nanu, yes.
And also, would it work quite well with Giratina?
Yes, it would, absolutely. Yeah, you can pop the Giratina straight into the discard pile. Very, very true. Very, very true. Yeah. Zoroark. This, I almost made a slide on. The attack, I can't remember the name of the attack. The second attack's the only one you care about. I think the first one is Nasty Plot. You can just search your deck for a card, I believe, although that may be wrong. Second one, for Dark, colourless, it's 20 times the number of Pokemon in your discard pile, up to a maximum of 10. So you're looking at 200 damage off of a non-GX attacker. The only problem is, committing 2 energy cards in. This is only going to be played in a Zoroark deck. Committing 2 energy cards to a non-GX attacker, you can probably only do if you're in a really nice spot with Zoroark, because very regularly you do miss your energy attachments. And the other problem is, regularly, your Zoroarks stay on the board, and considering that you are such a GX heavy attacker, generally you don't have more than about 5 or 6 Pokemon in your discard pile, and at that point Riotous Beating's doing the same damage, and you're not getting knocked out and losing 2 energy cards. I don't know. Popping a unit energy on a Ditto suddenly becomes very scary for your opponent, because they're like, could be anything. Last thing was Bisharp. I think it's for metal, 30 damage plus 90 more if this Pokemon has no damage counters on it. I've actually put the Vespiquen on it rather than the Spirit. The Vespiquen should have been on the Spiritomb for Soul Compressor synergy. With B Revenge. I'm not sure why it's on the Bisharp. I think I must have gone a bit too lally. But there we go. So yeah, I think it's Retaliate Bisharp. Oh no, not Retaliate. No, that was the XY one. Oh, I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, 30 plus 90 more if Bisharp has no damage counters on it. Interesting. 120 for 1 energy card. Seems good to me.
Pretty good.
Oh yeah, no, we've got some training cards to go through as well. I tell you what, I think it would be okay if we just take like a 2-minute break. I just need to go get a drink, make a phone call. It won't be too long at all. But yeah, don't go anywhere, everyone. We will resume for some item cards in about 2 minutes' time.
Cool.
Oh, right, apologies for that. We've got a ladder rather than stairs in the house at the moment because we've got some building work going on. So it makes things interesting.
Hey, he's back.
We are back and ready to go through some item cards from Dark Order. First of all, we're going to start with Electric Charger. So here we go. There's a bit of text. Flip 2 coins for each head. Search your discard pile for an electric power. Show it to your opponent and shuffle it back into your deck. So there is Electric Power. I think we're also getting a reprint of that in this set. I'm not sure though. But
Sure. I'm a little bit disappointed that shuffle it back into deck.
this was my thought too.
It feels a little bit weak with that.
It does, yeah.
Because the fact that
Honestly,
you're flipping coins as well, anyway, you're not even necessarily going to get any.
this is the problem.
I feel like it wouldn't have been too overpowered to put it in your hand.
Maybe. Yeah, absolutely. I think the only thing about sort of the flippy coins thing is that I know it's obviously it's not a thing we know about at the moment, but that Zapdos archetype, it's like Electropower is brilliant for that deck, but it's not. It doesn't crutch on it, so it's one of those things you can probably run some electric charges, and if you fail the flips, you fail the flips. Maybe you have to hit your opponent one more time. But it probably isn't the end of the world, and if you get one or two, it's fine because you can Jirachi them back into your hand. So I don't know. It does feel quite strong. Probably only within decks like that though that have the space to run lots of item cards. In GX decks where you require a full-on Elm build, maybe with stage 1s and stage 2s, I don't think there's space. I think just Electric Power is better than Electric Charger, and you only have 4 spaces.
Yeah.
Definitely. There's Ampharos GX. It sort of does the same thing. That's all I have to say there. Dangerous Drill. You can only play this card if you discard a dark Pokemon from your hand. Brilliant,
Ooh,
right? Brilliant.
I like that.
Brilliant. Synergy.
That's really good. Yeah, exactly.
Synergy time. Nanu. Hooper. Let's play Hooper GX. It's going to be a good deck. No. Darkrai, whatever. I don't care. Dark Pokemon. Fantastic. Yeet it into the discard pile. Discard a Pokemon tool, special energy, or stadium from the board state. Obviously from one of your from your opponent's Pokemon. The effect is nice. Absolutely. I think the biggest thing is it's sort of a mix between Faber Field Blower and Enhanced Hammer, and you can pretty much choose. Obviously, it's not Lost Zone, so I guess it is a Rosic Field Blower or Enhanced Hammer. Yeah, it's one of those cards, having the option to pretty much do whatever you like and get your Dark Pokemon into the discard pile is good. I think it's a very, very good card.
Not bad, yeah.
I think I will certainly try and build this Hooper GX. I think this is going to be quite a fun deck. How good it'll be is a different question, and I will hope to murder anyone I find playing Buzzwole, but there we go. Metal Goggles. So, the metal Pokemon this card is attached to takes 30 less damage from your opponent's Pokemon's attacks, and your opponent's Pokemon's attacks and abilities cannot put damage counters on it. So immediately we've got similarity to Metal Frying Pan.
That's just worse than Metal Frying Pan. Just worse. Exclusively worse.
Yeah, honestly, I think without Blacephalon, there'd be an argument for either, with Decidueye being big, but no.
Yeah.
Blacephalon's just
Blacephalon makes Frying Pan absolutely necessary.
And Blacephalon's everywhere. And, if you're going to play a metal deck,
Exactly.
you're playing Metal Frying Pan, or you're losing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I recently played. I was playing Blacephalon TCGO against a Turbo Lions deck, and I forgot that Frying Pan existed. And I was like, "Oh, this is easy. I need to discard like 2 energies, and I kill this Solgaleo that he's brought up like nonchalantly."
Yeah.
He whacks on Frying Pan, and I'm like, "Oh crap! This game just got a whole lot harder."
6 energies to take down the Sol GX, yeah.
Exactly.
Most definitely. My opinion is Frying Pan is better. Maybe we will see sort of release of Pokemon allow them to place abilities becoming very big in the future. I guess it does stop you losing to. Actually, no, it doesn't. No, I think Decidueye is the only thing that I can't think of too many abilities
Yeah.
that place damage counters. I'm probably missing something really obvious. Obviously, Feather Arrow is the obvious one.
Giratina.
Yeah, Distortion Door, of course. Yes, of course. But yeah, not too much really.
No.
Blacephalon's such a threat. I think the discussion is over. Right, Nanu, here we go. We're going to go over it one more time. Choose one of your Pokemon in play, search your discard pile for a basic dark Pokemon and switch it with that Pokemon. Essentially what this allows you to do is if you put your Zorua in the discard pile, you can play your Nanu, you can swap it, swap your benched Tapu Lele, Marshadow, whatever, for the Zorua and immediately evolve it into the Zoroark because it's been down for a turn. So the effect on it essentially is that your Tapu Lele GX, in terms of what your opponent's looking at, your Tapu Lele GX,
it's a placeholder for Zorua.
Absolutely. Well, it's a placeholder for Zorua. It's a placeholder for Sneasel as well. So your opponent's looking at the board, thinking
that feels so good as well.
It's brilliant.
The amount of times that I am like, this Lele on my bench is so annoying because not only is it taking up space, it's also just an easy two-prize target.
Absolutely. Yeah. Suddenly.
So the ability to remove it from your bench feels very good.
Most definitely. Yeah. Suddenly, Tapu Lele for Professor Elm's lecture feels fine because you just know that at some point in the game you're going to have access to Nanu. Whether or not it's right or not is your choice to make. But I think this is probably a one-off in Zoroark decks. And probably more of in Hooper GX in other dark decks that we'll start to see coming up in the format. We've talked about this enough, but this is a 5-star card. Excellent, very very good. Whoops, Jasmine, and I believe this is the last card. So search your deck for a metal Pokemon, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Okay, fine. If you're the second player and use this on your first turn, so essentially if you go second on your first turn, you can search your deck for 5 metal Pokemon instead. So this is essentially Elm plus Evolution if you're going second and going first. So obviously, all of a sudden, going second for, sort of metal decks that are, evolving metal decks becomes very, very good.
Feels good. Feels very good.
The problem is just, the weakness to Blacephalon. And, I know I say it over and over again, but metal decks, they must run Metal Throwing Pan. Anyway... In a vacuum, this makes metal decks a lot better because ideally now they want to go second. They can look to, I don't know, maybe, you can look to, you can Jasmine, get yourself 3 basics, couple of evolutions, and then maybe do something like what's the attack on Sogolo Prism Star? I forget. How do I know? Oh, Radiant Star, of course. Something like that for 1 energy attack. That can, you can sort of drastically alter your board state or something that it allows you to make going second better, as well as using this as this 5 energy card search with Jasmine. Other things that potentially could be good with is Duskmane, Magnezone. That's a thing sort of, but again, Blacephalon, like it's boring. I'm going to keep repeating it, but it's a very cool card, and I think if a metal Pokemon, not Cobalion GX, comes along that is effective enough to warrant sort of a build around Metal Frying Pan, I think it could be definitely playable. And that is it for now. Now that obviously isn't everything exciting in the set, and there is a lot more that we haven't covered. And the reason for that is essentially what I've done is gone through the tag team GXs, and I've gone through the GXs. I've gone through the Prism Stars and essentially the Pokemon and the trainers from Dark Order, as well as GX Ultra Shiny, and I've left Tag Bolt for now. And the reason for that was just the power pool was getting too long. It was going to end up being absolutely huge, and the plan is very much to do a second part. And Tag Bolt features a lot more exciting Pokemon, a lot more exciting item cards that will very much change the metagame. So I think for now that's probably where we're going to leave it. But this gives you an overall flavour for the upcoming set. Those new features that we're going to get. Tag Team GX Pokemon, very, very exciting. Potentially the issues with stall, maybe, how important is that going to be? And just, giving you an overall look at the cards, some thoughts, some ideas, maybe some builds. Just generally sort of give you a flavour for what's coming up. There's cheeky Buzzword GX.
Excellent. Yeah, been good.
Thank you very much.